and good morning to everyone. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I am Dr. Robinson. I'm the Director of Education for the United States Army for the state of Texas. And we're going to talk about education today. We're going to talk about staying in school, why it's important to stay in school, but then we're going to add a twist to it. And that twist is talking about our behavior and emotion. It's going to talk about hate, just a touch. We're not going to hit on hate a lot. We're going to really focus on education, but we want to make sure that we are under control as we go through this educational process. So here's how I want to start. I always like to begin talking about how I came up. I've learned over the years that it's always better to talk about yourself first, not to put people on edge or not to make people think that you are talking about them, but just to give a little background. So why is staying in school so important? Why is education so important? And I want to talk about it from the perspective of I grew up in South Georgia in the 1960s. And so there were some things that was going on in the 60s that just really caused issues amongst everybody. My father, who was my hero, my absolute hero, was my dad. Unfortunately, my dad he left me because of health issues and all of that a lot earlier than I wanted him to or need him to. But he left me with some things that I use to this day, 40 some odd years. I'll be 58 in 2 weeks. 40 some odd years later, some things my father left me that I still use today. Here's one of them. My dad told me this, and students, parents, teachers, what I want you to do is to get a piece of paper and something to write with and take some of these notes. And here's why. Some of the things that we're going to discuss this morning for these few minutes, I want you to hold on to them for the remainder of your life, because I guarantee when you are a parent, talking to my students, when you have your own family and you're talking to your children, some of these things you're going to regurgitate, some of these things you're going to repeat to your children to help them get to where they need to be. My dad told me this. He said, son, people can take all the things that you have, all the personal property, homes, cars, money, all of those things that we unfortunately put a lot of value into. He said, those things can leave you. Okay. And we saw that. Hey, we saw that just a few years ago when Hurricane Harvey came through. And guess what? A lot of the stuff that we had just kind of went away. We began to realize that stuff wasn't as important as we made it out to be. But what he told me, he says, now, the one thing that you can get that will never leave you is knowledge. And so the first reason students, parents, teachers, that we need to stay in school is what I have up here: intellectual property. What is intellectual property? Intellectual property is the knowledge, the information that you put right here between your two ears. Once you know it, it's not going anywhere else. No one can take that from you. So you always pursue, you always seek out, you always go forward to attain all the knowledge that you can. So intellectual property, I want you to write that down, because intellectual property is something that you can hold on to for the rest of your life. Okay? Now, here's the second thing. Number two is this. My dad also told me, he says, look, education is a bridge. And I looked at him like any young kid would look at his dad. What in the world are you talking about? He says, now, I want you to think, and here's what I want you to do. For all my students that are watching right now, what I want you to do is to close your eyes, and I want you to begin to dream. I want you to envision where you are right now. This moment, where are you? And as you begin to dream and think about where you're located right now, I want you to also begin to see yourself 10, 15 years, 20 years down the road. Where would you like to be? What is it that you would like to be doing? Education is that bridge. Education is that bridge that's going to get you from where you are right now to where you would like to be and where you would like to go. So the two reasons that we're going to start off with this morning in understanding and identifying why it's necessary for us to stay in school and to do our absolute best in school. Not just show up, okay? Not just show up, but show up with the intent of doing your absolute best. And the first one is what? I want to get as much intellectual property, education, knowledge as I can. Why? Because that will stay with me for the rest of my life. What's number two? Number two is this. Education is a bridge. It's that bridge that's going to help me get from where I am right now, January 22nd, 2021, to where I want to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. My education, my level of intellect, that intellectual property that I have acquired is that which is going to help me get to where I need to be. Okay? So those are the two things I want you to start off with. Now, out in cyber world, wherever you are right now, if you want to be successful, raise your hand. Now I'm raising my hand, and because there's some things that I still want to accomplish in my life. As I said, I'll be 58 years old in 2 weeks, but there's some things that I still want to do. You see, I have my regalia on. This is my PhD robe. So I have 4 college degrees, folks. And I had to work all the way through that process to get to this level. I didn't wear that. I don't have the hat sitting over here. And I tell you what, I may take this off in a minute because it's really, really hot. But if you want to be successful, what I want you to do is write the word success. I want you to write the word success on a piece of paper. Okay? And then here's what we're going to do. We're going to begin to talk about each one of these letters individually, because what I've made is an acrostic. Okay? An acrostic is simply meanings for each one of the letters in a particular word. So in this case, the acrostic we're going to deal with is from the word success. Okay? So we're going to start off with the word S, the letter S, and the word standard. So the first thing that we want to talk about and why it's necessary for us to stay in school, obtain that intellectual property, realize that education is a bridge, and to get to the level of success that we would like to get to is the word standard. Standards are this, folks. I need you individually to begin to identify who you are. What's important to you? What are some of the things that you stand for? Now, let me give you an example. See, again, growing up in the 60s is a lot different than growing up in the 2000s, and now we're at 2021. My father always talked to me about who we were, the family, the Robinsons, what we represented. So I asked you individually, every student that's on this Zoom call, every parent that's watching, every teacher, every educator that's watching, who are you? What is it that you stand for? Okay? What's your philosophy? Everyone, now this is for my educators and parents, everyone should have an educational philosophy. Mine goes back to the bridge. That education is a bridge that's going to help you get from where you are to where you want to go. Okay? But now for my educators and helping students understand what is it that you stand for? Who are you individually? Okay? And everyone should have a standard. That standard is I will not do anything that goes against who I am and what I stand for. Let me give it to you this way. Students, when you walk into the classroom, the manner in which you show up is beginning to establish a mindset, a thought in the mind of that teacher that watched you walk into the classroom. That teacher begins to understand and realize, here's this particular student, and this is what this student is about and what this student stands for. That's why I have 4 granddaughters, and I tell each one of them, when they walk into the classroom, make sure you walk into the classroom prepared. That's letting everyone realize and understand that you are a prepared student and what you have come into that classroom to obtain. And what do we come to obtain? Intellectual property. I know it sounds like a broken record, but you're going to hear that this entire presentation because I want that to get deep down inside of you. Why? Because it's the internal part. It's not the external. Sure, we're going to get an education to get money, to get job, to get fame. We're going to do all of that, but it's the internal and the standard that you have, the standards that you establish will begin to set forth the entire foundation for who you are as an individual. Okay, here's number 2. Number 2 is this: the you in success is uncompromising. Okay, what is uncompromising? I'm not going to change myself just to make someone else happy about who they are. Okay, the things that I believe in, the things that I stand for, the things that I am striving to accomplish, I'm going to do those things. Now, we have to make sure, number 1, that we're doing things that's right. Okay? We can't be out doing things that are in error. We can't have bad behavior. We can't be espousing bad attitudes. We have to do things that are going to be profitable for us to do what? Obtain intellectual property and to get the education that we need to cross the bridge that's going to help us get to where we need to be. Okay? So uncompromising. Not changing yourself just because someone else wants you to change yourself, and then not doing things that others want you to do because that's what they want you to do. Okay? Now, I'm not talking about teachers and parents telling you what to do and the things you need to do that's going to be right, that's going to help you get number 1 and number 2. Okay? Let's make sure that we understand that. I'm not telling you to be disobedient or disrespectful to authority. Absolutely not. But what I am talking about is sometimes we have friends that want us to do things that they want us to do, and we know it's not right. Mom and dad have taught us what to do properly, but we have people that want us to compromise the standards so that we can fit in to who they are and who they want us to be. Well, no, we're not going to compromise our standards. We're not going to do that. We're going to hold fast to what we've been taught and continue to strive for the things that we want to accomplish so that we can get that intellectual property and cross that educational bridge that's going to get us to where we need to be. Here's the next one. The C, the first C in success is character. Huge word, character. Who are you when nobody's watching you? I hear the room going quiet. When no one is watching you, who are you? What are you doing? Well, you want me to tell you when character shows up? Here's when character shows up. Your teacher gives you some homework. Okay? You know that you have homework that you need to accomplish. You go home, and instead of getting started on your homework, we get on the game system or we start watching TV. Good character, my students, says that I already know what's necessary, what's expected, and I'm going to do what's right regardless to who's watching me or who's not watching me. So your character is what's going to show up, no matter when, where, or how. See, in the United States military, and I spent 20 years in the United States Army, we focused on character because character was what we could use to identify what someone was going to do, right, wrong, or indifferent. Now, can you change your character? Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're on the Zoom call right now and something I just said just popped you across the head, and you say, well, wait a minute, that's me. I need to change that. Well, this is a great day to change. No one should have to tell you to do your homework. No one should have to tell you to do the things that are right. No one should have to tell you if you have chores at home like my 4 granddaughters. No one should have to tell you to do your chores. You know what you need to do, get it done. That's good character. That's what you're espousing to. And good character, folks, is going to help you get number 1 and number 2. It's going to help you get intellectual property, and it's going to help you cross that bridge educationally that's going to get you from where you are to where you want to be. What's the next C? The next C is courage. Courage. See, students, it takes courage to do what's right regardless. It takes courage to stand up for what's right. This is what we kind of talk. We're going to put a pin right here, and we're going to talk about hate for a minute. See, there's no room for hate anywhere. Now, am I going to tell you that you're not going to dislike something or dislike someone? No, I'm not going to tell you that. Because if I did that, then I would be dishonest to you. No, there's going to be times where you dislike something, and you might even dislike someone. But the power, my students, the power is in how you handle that emotion. Let me give you, I tell you, I'm going to talk about me. Growing up in the 60s, okay, in South Georgia, there were people that disliked me simply because of the color of my skin. It happens. It was part of the world. And so as a student, I would go home and I would talk to my dad and tell my dad, hey, Dad, this was said or that was said, or hey, this person did this or this person did that. And my dad, being the wise man that he was, would say, well, wait a minute, how did that make you feel? And I would explain my emotions. And then he would take me right back to where he always talked to me and says, okay, what did you want to do? And I would explain all the things that was going through my mind. And then my dad would say, well, how was any of that going to profit you? How was that going to help you get to where you're trying to go in life? And I could not answer that question because it didn't help me. And students, just like being angry and hating and just having all sorts of emotions about people and things, just like it wasn't going to help me get to where I wanted to be, it's not going to help you either. See, you have to control your emotions and not let your emotions control you. That's how we erase hate. See, we have to start looking at situations and say, okay, how do I handle this to where it's going to profit me? Well, Dr. Robinson, what in the world do you mean profit you? Well, what am I trying to get? I'm trying to get 2 things, back to number 1 and back to number 2. Number 1, I'm trying to get intellectual property. How is hate going to help me obtain intellectual property? How is hate going to help me get across the bridge that's going to take me from where I am right now to where I want to go? The short answer, it doesn't. It doesn't. And so my very smart dad told me this. He said, son, don't worry about whether people like you or dislike you. You can't change them. The only person that you can change is you. So here's how you begin to change you. You go to school every day and you compete and you be the very best student in the classroom every day. I challenge everyone that's on this Zoom call right now to walk into your classroom every day trying to be the best student in that class in every subject. Don't make excuses. Don't provide explanations. Just go in and work as hard as you can. There will always be someone that likes you or doesn't like you. How you handle your emotions is what's going to propel you, students, to where you obtain that intellectual property and where you get to that bridge and cross the educational bridge to get to where you want to be. It's going to take courage to do that. See, it doesn't take any courage to hate people. It doesn't take any courage to dislike, and we have no reason to be fighting anywhere in a school at all. There's no room for that. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable. It takes courage to maintain your standards. It takes courage to be uncompromising. It takes courage to display the character that your mom and dad expect for you to display each and every day. And it's going to take courage for you to walk into that classroom each and every day and pursue being the absolute best in that classroom every day. What's our next word? Our next word begins with an E, okay? Excellence. My favorite word in education, excellence. Here's a thought. I want you to write this down. Every day, pursue excellence because there's no substitute for excellence. Every day, pursue excellence because there is no substitute for excellence. What I explained to you about courage is that pursuit of excellence, where you walk into the classroom every day and you're striving to be the very best in the class every day. But Dr. Robinson, I'm not good in science. I wasn't either. Not good in science. But that's no excuse. So what I had to do is work harder in science to get better in science. But I'm not good in math. Math is hard. Work hard, ask for help. I struggle in English and language arts. Not a problem. There are some very talented educators in your school that can help you get to where you want to be. Don't make excuses. Don't provide explanations. Pursue excellence every day. And sometimes, students, that simply means that I'm going to have to ask someone for help. Oh my God, do you really mean I got to tell people I don't know everything I need to know? Yes. Yes. Don't worry about what your classmates think. Sure, they may have something to say. No one's worried about that. The only thing that matters is that at the end of the day, you walk out that classroom knowing more today than you knew yesterday. And if that means letting everyone in the class know that you struggled with fractions, or you had some difficulties with punctuations, or you didn't quite understand the difference, between this cell and that cell, well, that's what happens. But when you leave the classroom, the key, students, is that you know what you need to know to do what? Number one and number two, obtain intellectual property and be prepared to cross that educational bridge to get you from where you are to where you're going. What's the next letter? The next letter is an S, self-discipline. Wow, huge word, self-discipline. Self-discipline says this: I don't have to ask someone or expect someone to tell me the things that I need to do. See, when I've already been told what the expectations are, then I know that it's up to me. Students, it's up to you. Don't look at mom. Don't look at dad. Don't look at your teachers. Don't look at your friends. Take a look in the mirror at self. Because if you don't get the level of intellectual property that you need to get, whose fault? Who do I point the finger at? No, don't point the finger at anybody else. Look at you. Self-discipline says, I'm going to get up and I'm going to work as hard as I can. Dr. Robinson, what does that look like? Well, here's what it looks like. I have a test on Monday. I need to study. Am I spending more time on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and all these other social media sites? Am I spending more time there than I am studying the work that I know I'm going to have a test on Monday? Self-discipline says my mom and dad should not have to tell me to put that phone down, put that tablet up, get off that computer, and pull out your homework and study. Shouldn't have to do that. You know what you need. You know what you need to do. You know the expectation. Self-discipline says, I'm disciplined enough that yes, I'm going to have some fun. Hey, I did. I'm not going to tell you I was studying every moment of every second of every day. No. Man, I love sports. I played football. I played basketball. I played baseball. I loved all of that. But the priority was education, was my grades. That was the priority. And at any point, if my grades started to slip, then all those other things that I enjoyed doing, they started to take a back seat so that I could get my grades where I needed them to be, because I understood that I needed to obtain what? Intellectual property, and I needed to be prepared to cross that educational bridge that was going to get me from where I am to where I wanted to be. Last word. The last letter is another S. Self-reliant. Self-reliant. Now this is a big word. This is a big word with a big meaning. And yes, we depend on our educators to give us what we need to get us started. See, students, here's what I want you to realize. A lot of your education is going to be you learning for yourself. Dr. Robinson, what does that look like? I'm glad you asked that question. How many of you out there in cyber world read just because? You pick up a magazine, you pick up a book, you pick up any type of reading material, even if it's an online type of maybe a magazine that's online, or maybe it's a book online, or maybe it's just an advertisement, but it's some type of reading material. How many of you all read just because? Well, if you dropped your head, if you kind of scroll around to see who was looking at you, then this was for you. The way we become self-reliant is I learn to begin to deal with the things that I need to deal with. I know that I need to read better. I know I need to increase my vocabulary. So I'm going to pick up some type of reading material. It doesn't have to be a novel. It could be a comic book. But read. Spend time reading. Even if it's on your phone. If you have your phone and you say, okay, well, I'm just gonna read a couple of articles. But read. One of the struggles that we have today is because We use this thing so much. I was talking to a group of students yesterday up in North Texas, and we was having a conversation about the phone and how today the phone, the telephone, has taken the place of so many different things. And I asked the students, I said, hey, what did texting replace? And they said, well, Dr. Robinson, it replaced writing letters. And I said, you know what? You're absolutely correct. It did. It has. And so our vocabulary, students, has taken a hit because we don't have to use it as much as we did when we were writing letters. See, back in my time, and even in probably some of your educators' time, the only way our grandparents, who were hundreds of miles away from us, knew anything was either through a phone call or through a written letter. And that written letter meant that everything that we put on paper was being critiqued. Sentence structure, spelling, punctuation, all of that was being critiqued. Well, with the phone today, we just pull it out, we hit text, we do some abbreviations, some acronyms, and hey, we sent the message out. So I challenge you, pick up a book, read, spend 30, 45 minutes every day just reading. And what this is a guarantee that I'm going to give you. As you read more, you're going to see your vocabulary begin to expand. Not only that, as you read more, you're going to want to know more. And that's going to cause you to read even more. My granddaughter, I have a 16-year-old granddaughter that's a sophomore in high school. And this is kind of where we get ready to close this thing out. I was having the same conversation with her. And I was telling her, I said, here's what's happening. Because we have not immersed ourselves into information, people kind of just tell us whatever it is that they want us to know because they realize that we haven't done as much reading as we need to. And so students, here's my challenge for you. Read something every day that's going to give you some information that you did not have the day before. Dr. Robinson, what are you talking about? I'm talking about what my teachers told me way back there 40 years ago. They said, Dywaine, every day that you show up to school, you should strive to learn something new. Students, every day, when you get home, I challenge you to tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your brothers, tell your sisters what you learned new in the classroom today. What does that mean? That means that I have to show up at school prepared and excited and determined to learn something new that day. So how do we get there? We go back to where we started. Our standards, know them. Uncompromising. Don't go against your standards. What you've been trained, what you've been taught, you've been trained and taught that for a reason. Your character, make sure your character simply stands on what you've been taught. Courage, have the courage to be who you're supposed to be. Don't let hate or any other negative emotion take over you. You control your own emotion and ensure this. Ensure that whatever it is that you're feeling and you're dealing with moves you closer to accomplishing 1 and 2. Excellence, strive for it every day because there's no substitute for excellence. Self-discipline is all about you. Look in the mirror and tell yourself every day it's about you. You're the one that's going to make it happen. Self-reliant. Find yourself, students, every day doing what you need to do to accomplish what you hope to accomplish. Now, for all of my students, here's something I want you to think about. When you show up in high school, day one, here's a question that I ask every student. How many of you want to be the top in the class? To be number uno, to be number one? So I challenge every student that's on this call, every day, you wake up, you strive to be the absolute best you that you can be. And I will tell you, if you do that, you will obtain intellectual property and you will get the education you need to cross the bridge that's going to get you from where you are to where you want to go. God bless all of you. And I hope that each and every one of you stay safe, but work hard. Pursue excellence. There's no substitute for excellence. Thank you.